Yeah.
and you just extended the range, or did you have to change something?
My form has always been my form. It's like always been the same, and I give a lot of credit to my dad. He was my first ever basketball coach, but...
Logo threes, it's her signature. That is the most Caitlin Clark way to win the game.
The USA Olympic basketball team just made a decision that's got everyone talking. They left out Caitlin Clark, the NCAA's all-time leading scorer and the #1 WNBA draft pick. You're probably thinking, wait, what? How does that even happen? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into why this might be the biggest mistake in USA basketball history. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark's rise to basketball stardom. This isn't just any player we're discussing. We're talking about the NCAA's all-time leading scorer and the #1 pick in the WNBA draft. Can you believe how quickly she's become a household name? Think back to her college career. Remember that game against Louisville in the Elite Eight? Clark dropped 41 points, dished out 12 assists, and grabbed 10 rebounds.
It's Caitlin Clark.
Her basketball IQ, her court vision, you just can't say enough about it.
Well, the first thing is I feel like I know if it's going in right off my hand, and I think that just speaks to how much time I put in and how many shots I've taken.
Caitlin Clark unloads!
A triple-double in a high-stakes game. That's the kind of performance that made fans and analysts alike think, this girl's a lock for the Olympic team. But it wasn't just one game. Clark consistently delivered jaw-dropping performances throughout her college career. She averaged 31.6 points, 8.9 assists, and 7.1 rebounds per game in her senior year. Those aren't just good numbers, they're video game numbers. And let's not forget about her ability to hit those long-range bombs. Clark's known for sinking shots from way beyond the arc, stretching defenses and opening up the floor for her teammates. It's like she's playing on a different court than everyone else. Now, you might be thinking, okay, she was great in college, but how's she doing in the WNBA? Well, let me tell you, she's not just surviving, she's thriving. In her first 12 games as a pro, Clark's averaging 16.8 points, 6.3 assists, and 5.3 rebounds. Those are Rookie of the Year numbers right there. But here's where it gets really impressive. Clark's not just putting up stats, she's leading the league in minutes played. Think about that for a second. In a league full of seasoned veterans and established stars, it's the rookie who's spending the most time on the court. That speaks volumes about her impact and importance to her team. And did you catch her game against Washington? Clark dropped 30 points, showing she can hang with the best of the best. It's performances like these that have fans scratching their heads over her Olympic snub. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what about her weaknesses? Sure, Clark's turnover rate is high at 5.6 per game, but let's put that in perspective. She's a rookie point guard, playing more minutes than anyone else in the league and carrying a huge offensive load. Some turnovers are to be expected as she adjusts to the pro game. Plus, look at how quickly she's improving. Clark was named WNBA Rookie of the Month for May, leading all rookies in several categories. She's not just playing well, she's dominating among her peers. So here's the million-dollar question. With all this talent, with all these incredible performances, why isn't Caitlin Clark heading to Paris? It's not like she's an unknown quantity. We're talking about a player who's been in the national spotlight for years, who's broken records, who's already making waves in the WNBA. So who exactly made this decision to leave Caitlin Clark off the Olympic team? It wasn't just one person, it was the USA Basketball Women's National Team Committee. These are the folks responsible for putting together the squad that's supposed to bring home the gold. And let me tell you, they've got some explaining to do. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but surely they had a good reason, right? Well, let's hear it from them. Jen Rosati, the committee chair, tried to justify the decision. She said, it would be irresponsible for us to talk about her in a way other than how she would impact the play of the team. In other words, they're saying it's all about team fit and chemistry. But here's where it gets really interesting. Rosati also mentioned that Clark's lack of experience compared to other players was a factor. Can you believe that? We're talking about the NCAA's all-time leading scorer, a player who's already breaking records in the WNBA, and they're saying she doesn't have enough experience? Now, I know what you're thinking, but what about her incredible performances? Don't those count for anything? Apparently not, according to the committee. They seem to be more focused on how players fit into their existing system rather than adapting to new talent. And get this, Jim Tooley, the CEO of USA Basketball, actually defended the decision by saying it wasn't about drawing viewers or attention, it was about creating the best team for the competition. But isn't that exactly what Caitlin Clark would do? She's not just a player, she's a phenomenon. She brings attention, excitement, and most importantly, she brings win. You know, it's funny, the committee keeps talking about team chemistry and experience. But let me ask you this, don't you think having one of the most talented players in the world on your team might just improve your chances of winning? It's like they're so focused on following their usual playbook that they can't see the game changer right in front of them. And it's not just fans who are scratching their heads over this decision. Analysts and former players are speaking out too. Many are saying that leaving Clark off the team is a huge mistake. Some have even gone as far as to say they would have won the gold with Caitlin Clark. That's a pretty bold statement, but when you look at Clark's track record, it's hard to argue against it. Now, I know what the committee might say. They might point to Clark's high turnover rate in her early WNBA games. They might talk about her lack of international experience. But come on, we're talking about a player who's already proven she can adapt and excel at every level she's played at. Who's to say she wouldn't do the same on the Olympic stage? You know, the more you look at this decision, the more it starts to smell like something else. It's not just about team fit or experience. It's starting to look a lot like arrogance. Yeah, I said it, arrogance. It's like the USA basketball leadership is so confident in their way of doing things, they can't even consider that there might be a better way. Think about it. They're essentially saying, we know better than everyone else. We don't need the most exciting player in women's basketball. We don't need the player who's bringing more attention to the sport than anyone else. We've got our system, and that's all we need. Let's talk about arrogance in sports. You know that feeling when someone thinks they're untouchable. That's exactly what we're seeing with the USA Basketball Women's National Team Committee. They've made a decision that screams, we know better than everyone else. Think about it. They're leaving out Caitlin Clark, one of the most electrifying players in basketball right now. Why? Because they're sticking to their old playbook. It's like they're saying, we've always done it this way, so why change? But here's the thing, basketball is evolving, the game is changing, and if you're not adapting, you're falling behind. Now you might be thinking, but they've won gold medals before. They must know what they're doing. Sure, they've had success, but past success doesn't guarantee future results. Just ask any team that's rested on its laurels and watch the competition zoom past them. So what's the real cost of this arrogance? It's not just about leaving a talented player off the team. It's about what this decision says to the world of women's basketball. It's saying, we don't need new talent. We don't need excitement. We don't need to grow the game. And that's a dangerous message to send. Let's break it down. First, there's the team's performance. Yeah, they might still win gold, but wouldn't you want every advantage possible? Caitlin Clark isn't just a good player. She's a game changer. She's the kind of player who can turn a close game into a blowout with a few quick threes. She's the kind of player who makes everyone around her better. By leaving her off the team, they're potentially leaving wins on the table. But it's not just about winning, it's about growing the game globally. Think about the impact Caitlin Clark could have on the world stage. She's already a phenomenon in the US. Imagine her hitting one of her trademark long-range bombs in front of a global audience. That's the kind of moment that inspires young girls around the world to pick up a basketball. And let's talk about viewer interest. The Olympics are a huge platform for women's basketball. It's a chance to showcase the best of the best. But by leaving out one of the most exciting players in the game, they're potentially missing out on a ton of viewers. How many casual fans might tune in just to see Caitlin Clark play? How many highlight reels could she create? It's a missed opportunity, plain and simple. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what about her turnover rate? What about her lack of international experience? Fair points. Clark's turnover rate in the WNBA is high, and she hasn't played much international ball. But here's the thing, those concerns don't outweigh her potential contributions. Look at her college career. Look at her early WNBA performances. This is a player who rises to every challenge. Who's to say she wouldn't do the same on the Olympic stage? And as for international experience, well, everyone has to start somewhere. Why not start with one of the most talented players in the world? You know what's really interesting? Caitlin Clark's response to all this, she didn't sulk, she didn't complain. Instead, she said, they woke a monster. Now that's the kind of attitude you want on your team. That's the kind of player who's gonna use this setback as fuel, who's gonna come back stronger, better, more determined than ever.